10 years, Democrats are set to run the show in Washington. Joe Biden will make the transition from president-elect to president now in just under 24 hours. Democrats hold both houses of the United States Congress, but by the slimmest of margins. So how will that power switch play itself out in the next 2 years? Joining us now to answer that and much more is Michael Starr Hopkins, founding partner of Northern Star Strategies. Michael, great to have you here, my friend. Happy inauguration week, I suppose I should say. Look, you're a longtime veteran of the campaign trail, Michael. As a matter of fact, you and I first met in what feels like 30 years ago, but I think it was the very beginning of the 2020 campaign, which is still a long, long time ago. You're a longtime Democratic campaign strategist here. First, before we get into the nitty-gritty of Capitol Hill, Michael, what are your reflections on the historic nature of what we're going to see here in Washington tomorrow? What are you most looking forward to seeing?
Honestly, this is going to sound oversimplified, but being able to just take a deep breath again. There has been so much tension and so much division over the last 4 years, especially as an African American and an African American male. There has just been a constant anxiety and feeling like now I have a government that actually represents me and believes that I am part of the fabric that brings this country together. That's really what I look forward to.
What are those top priorities that you're most looking forward to seeing out of the Biden-Harris administration? We know we've got those day one executive orders. We've got the goals by the 10-day period. We've got the psychological barrier of the first 100 days. For good or for bad, Michael, every White House to some degree is judged on that 100-day barrier. What are those initial policy proposals you're most looking forward to seeing Joe Biden get off the ground?
Well, I'm excited to see the Biden administration address immigration. It's an issue that's been politicized over the last 20 years, but especially over the last 4 years. And so allowing dreamers to really have a stake in the country and know that they will forever be part of the American dream, I think is really important. And I think it's important, obviously, politically in states like Arizona and Texas, states that Biden either won or performed well in. I think also, obviously, COVID. COVID is the biggest issue in America right now. We're quickly approaching 500,000 deaths with no real plan in sight of how we're going to deal with that. And so I think the Biden administration is going to be honed in specifically on that issue.
It's a great point, Michael, because it can almost be easy to forget, especially given the news of the last couple of weeks. We are averaging a COVID-19 related death in this country every 7 minutes, and that is certainly going to be one of the main points of priority for the incoming White House. People say with a slim majority, the so-called moderate voices really tend to shine. They tend to sort of drive the policy and the agenda. What are you most closely watching as it pertains to the Joe Manchins of the world, these sort of moderate Democrats? Do you think they will have outsized influence given just how tight the margins are for Democrats?
I don't really buy into the notion that Senator Manchin himself is going to be a linchpin, because you've also got, Senator Sinema, and you've got Susan Collins, and, there are a group of moderate Republicans and a group of moderate Democrats, Mitt Romney included, who are going to really play a role in kind of establishing norms again within the Senate and to some degree within the House. And so I think what we're going to see more than anything is members of Congress trying to find ways that they can at least work together on issues that'll lower the tension. Because I think after we saw the events on January 6th, members of Congress are really trying to lower the tension, not just because of political concerns, but because of physical concerns for them and their staff and their families.
Yeah, what a dire reminder that that's the world with which we are entering this new phase here in Washington. To the other end of the sort of Democratic political ideological aisle, someone like Senator Bernie Sanders set to become chair of the Senate Budget Committee. In the House of Representatives, we've seen the more progressive Justice Democrats only add to their numbers. They're now going to have, I think, 10 official members in this next session. How much of an influence do you think the so-called progressive wing of the Democratic Party is going to have, really trying to hold the rank and file of the Democratic Party to account? I mean, there's going to be a lot of really important issues where they are consistently going to be saying to the Biden-Harris White House, you need to do more to pull to the left. What are you looking for in that dynamic?
I think progressives are going to have a huge voice in this administration, and they should, because as the country evolves, we're seeing a more progressive tilt in this country. There's more concerns over economic justice and social justice and civil rights and making sure that every American, has their shot at the American dream. And so I think that that's something that President-elect, soon to be President Biden, has really made kind of the foundation of his campaign and will be the foundation of his administration, is bringing the parties together. We don't have to agree on everything, but we can agree that we want to make sure that people can keep their lights on, that they can have good schools, that they can feel safe. And so our paths on how to get there may differ, but I think everyone within the Democratic Party is solidified on that notion.
Michael, I know you to be very astute, especially when it comes to Democratic messaging. The Republican Party messaging is going to be fierce, especially the next 2 years. Everything radical socialism this, radical socialism that. And there's evidence to suggest that could be very potent in terms of the GOP trying to flip, especially the House, for the 2022 midterms. What do the Democrats need to do, especially through the lens of messaging, to try and make sure that now that they have the gavel, they keep the gavel?
I think one of the most important things Democrats can do in terms of messaging is not run away from the message. So Republicans want to keep calling Democrats radical. Well, a whole bunch of people posted memes about Martin Luther King yesterday, and Martin Luther King was a radical because he believed that every American should have a shot at the American dream and every American should be treated equal. And so rather than run from these attacks from Republicans, Democrats need to embrace them and explain why they are the party for the working people and why they are the party for Americans who want to come together and not continue to have divisive events and divisive rhetoric that ends with lives lost at the Capitol.
Always really love and appreciate your perspective, and when you are willing to take a few minutes for us, my friend Michael Starr Hopkins, founding partner of Northern Star Strategies. My special thanks to you, Michael, and enjoy inauguration tomorrow. Much more